The email arrived at 2:14 a.m. No subject line, no greeting, just one cold sentence written by the woman who taught me how to read. We've agreed you're no longer part of the family. Don't expect a place here again. I reread it until the words blurred, but the pain still hit sharp and clear. Before we move ahead, tell me in the comments where you're watching from, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel, because I bring a fresh, new story every single day made just for you. I laughed once, quietly, because if I didn't, I might have screamed. We've agreed, she wrote, as if my entire family had held a secret meeting just to erase me. They did it before I could defend myself, and all because I refused to hand over what they thought was theirs. 2 months earlier, I'd inherited my grandmother's old house by the lake, the one she promised would go to whoever truly needed it. Mom said I didn't deserve it because Tatiana never sacrificed for family. Translation, I never gave her money every time she lost another investment. Now there it was in black and white, my official exile from the Kingsley family. I sat at my kitchen table, bare feet cold against the tiles, that message glowing on the screen like a wound. She didn't even sign it, love, Mom. Just her full name, Margaret E. Kingsley, like a lawyer closing a deal. Fine. The old Tatiana would have cried all night, but I had spent years walking on eggshells trying to earn softness from people who only respected power. They didn't know yet, but I had quietly built mine. The very house they wanted wasn't just a lakeside cabin. It sat on land with more value than they imagined. I had already filed plans to restore and develop it under my own company's name. By the time they realized the truth, that the property they tried to steal would soon be worth millions, it'd be too late for fake apologies. The real story started the day they finally decided to confront me in person. And that meeting didn't go the way they planned. The knock on my door came 3 days later, sharp, impatient, entitled. I didn't even have to look. Mom never used the doorbell. I opened it to find her flanked by my brother, Eric, and his wife, both of them looking like they'd come straight from a real estate open house, polished but poisonous. Don't think that little message means we're done talking, Mom said, brushing past me into the living room like she still owned the place. The same tone she'd used my whole childhood. We just needed to make things clear. Crystal, I said, keeping my voice even. You made it very clear. Before I go further, drop your city in the comments and make sure you're subscribed, because what happened in the next 10 minutes turned this quiet living room into the most expensive mistake my family ever made. Eric dropped a file folder onto my coffee table with a self-satisfied grin. We talked to a lawyer. You might have the deed, but the Kingsley Trust predates Grandma's will. That property belongs to the family, not you. I skimmed the paperwork. They copied some old trust documents and highlighted random lines. You really think that's how it works? I asked without looking up. Mom folded her arms. You stole from us. Do the right thing and sign it back. I'll even make sure no one sues you. Eric smirked. Think of your reputation, Tatiana. One headline about fraud, and your little startup will vanish overnight. There it was, the part they assumed I'd never outgrow, fear. I took a deep breath, walked to my desk, and retrieved my own folder. Interesting you mentioned lawyers, I said, handing him a sealed envelope. This is for mine. He hesitated. What is this? Records, I said simply. Every payment Grandma made into the trust before she removed both of you as beneficiaries. Every missing wire transfer since you started managing her accounts. Every signature, yours, Eric, that doesn't match your legal one. His grin faltered. Mom snatched the envelope, scanning furiously until her hand began to shake. Where did you get this? Grandma kept copies and gave them to her attorney a week before she died. Funny how that never came up. Silence flooded the room. The sound of their control cracking was almost satisfying. I'm not going to have you arrested, I said finally, but this is over. You don't get the house, and you don't get another chance to pretend you're saving the family. The only thing that ever needed saving was me. Mom's glare broke into something smaller than anger, like disbelief that manipulation no longer worked. You'd ruin us, she whispered. No, I said. You already did. I'm just not cleaning it up anymore. They left without another word. The door clicked shut behind them, but the quiet that followed wasn't heavy. It was clean, like air after a storm. What I didn't know yet was that they weren't finished. 36 hours later, I'd wake up to find something on the news that would make the entire city take sides and force me to show exactly how much power I'd been hiding all along. The headline hit the internet like a spark in dry grass. Local heiress accused of defrauding family. My coffee cup nearly slipped from my hand when I saw my own photo plastered under the words. Same picture from my company website, except this time it had been cropped and darkened like a mugshot. Underneath was a quote from my brother. Tatiana manipulated our mother into signing over family assets during our grandmother's illness. I stared at the screen, part rage, part disbelief. They didn't just twist the story, they turned me into a villain in front of the entire city. Before we continue, tell me in the comments where you're watching this from and hit that subscribe button, because the way this story flips next is exactly how you silence people who build lies for a living. Within hours, reporters camped outside my building. My inbox filled with messages from clients asking if the allegations were true. The family's attack wasn't about money anymore, it was about reputation. They wanted the public to destroy me since they couldn't do it legally. I called my attorney, Victor, the calmest man I knew. They went public, I said when he answered. Every news site's running it. Good, he replied, surprising me. Now we can go public too. That afternoon, he handed me a USB drive labeled Kingsley Files. This contains the forensic audit that clears you completely, he said. And something extra. Records of false declarations to your grandmother's accounts logged under your brother's user ID. I blinked. You mean? Tax evasion, fund misappropriation, all traceable. You don't even need to press charges. Just upload it. We released everything at once. Social media exploded. The same outlets that had dragged my name now ran Kingsley scandal, missing funds exposed. Eric's smug face appeared beside transaction logs and forged signatures. My mother released a shaky no comment, but it was too late. By evening, they weren't denying it anymore. They were begging for silence in group texts I didn't even open. I didn't feel triumphant, not exactly. Mostly tired. Years of being belittled had boiled into one perfect public reckoning. As night fell, my phone buzzed with one last message from my mother. How could you do this to your own blood? I typed slowly, then stopped halfway. There was nothing left to prove. I deleted her message and turned off my screen. The lake house waited, quiet, steady, still mine. I packed a bag and left before dawn. The city lights faded behind me, replaced by a calm mist floating over the water. For the first time in forever, I wasn't anyone's disappointment or bargaining tool. I was just Tatiana, alone, successful, and finally free from the signatures that used to define me. At sunrise, I unlocked the front door, breathed in the scent of cedar and old memories, and whispered to the empty house, "We've agreed you're no longer my family either." The boards creaked beneath my feet, whispering years of silence back to me. That lake house had once been my favorite place in the world, summers filled with wildflowers and my grandmother's laughter. Now it smelled of fresh paint, power and peace. Outside, the morning sunlight spilled across the water, turning everything gold, and for the first time, I felt that word again, home. I spent the afternoon unpacking boxes my grandmother had stored upstairs. Inside one was an old tin envelope marked in her handwriting. For Toddy, when it's all too heavy. My chest tightened as I opened it. There was no money, no title deeds, just a note written in fading ink. Don't measure love by inheritance. Measure it by who still stands beside you when everything else disappears. I exhaled slowly, almost laughing through the tears I hadn't realized were waiting. All those years, I'd begged my family to see me, when the only person who ever truly had was Grandma. She hadn't just left me a house, she'd left me a lesson in the shape of independence. That evening, Victor called. "You ready for tomorrow?" he asked. "The press wants a comment." "No comment," I said, smiling. "Truth doesn't need one." He chuckled softly. "You're learning faster than they expected." Before I hung up, I stepped outside onto the porch. The lake rippled with the reflection of the sky, sun dipping low. My phone buzzed again, a text from an unknown number. I didn't need to open it to know it was my mother. I turned the device face down and let the silence win. In the distance, lights from town glowed faintly, but the noise felt miles away. I thought about the girl who once would have driven back just to apologize for existing. She was gone now, buried somewhere between broken expectations and forgiveness I didn't know. The world had finally stopped spinning around their approval. It revolved around my peace now. I smiled at the house that had survived them all, at the reflection of my own face in the lake, calm but strong, and whispered, "Guess we finally kept an agreement, Mom. I don't belong there anymore, and I never needed to." The wind blew faintly through the pines, almost like my grandmother answering. Sometimes the sweetest revenge is not taking anything back. It's simply having more left to live for. Weeks passed, and the city kept buzzing about the scandal that had once carried my name. Only now, it wasn't shame they whispered about, it was how calmly I'd walked away. Every message from my family went unanswered. Their calls stopped eventually, replaced by a silence that felt like closure. I stood on the lake porch one last time, the sunrise painting silver across the water. The property deal I'd been building quietly closed that morning. The land my family tried to steal was now the headquarters of something new, the Kingsley Foundation for Women starting over. My grandmother's name etched at the gate. As the wind shifted, I slipped the old letter back into my pocket and smiled. They had erased me from their family, but I'd built one in my own way, through every woman who refused to be forgotten or controlled. Peace didn't look like revenge after all. It looked like freedom, success, and the quiet confidence of knowing you never needed their permission to win.